Mr. Investor Lot, welcome back to the channel, baby. Today we're going to be talking about ticker symbol NNDM, also known as nanodimension. The current market cap of this company is $1.41 billion. However, according to the latest presentation, September 2021, nanodimension has $1.4 billion in cash, and it still has no debt. So today I want to talk about a presentation in June 28th, 2021. This was on Red Chip Company's channel. It only has 469 views, and it's a kind of up-to-date interview with Yoav regarding the business. I also want to talk about institutions over on Fintel, 193 institutional owners, almost 30% institutional shares. But what is their position and how are they behaving? But before we get into this video, my name is Miguel. I look for big, juicy growth stocks, and I believe nanodimension is one of them. Nanodimension has game-changing technology that can affect all of these markets. And today I just want to dig into the medical market and how it can apply itself there. And then we're going to break down this presentation bit by bit, and I'll show you the best highlights. Please remember, none of this is financial advice. It's for entertainment only. And if you're able to support the channel, I really appreciate you click the join button just above my head. Or if you'd like to send donations, there's a PayPal link in my description box below. I appreciate any donations, and I'm really thankful and grateful for all of you guys. But if you're unable to send any donations or join channel memberships, just you hitting the like button, clicking subscribe is enough for me. Thank you so much for joining the family, and I'll catch you in the video. Okay, first things first, this video here, I want to go down to the terminology here. So in the description box, in the caption, obviously you know the host of this channel for Red Chip Companies. This guy's interviewed Yoav, nanodimension CEO, several times before in the past. As we know, nanodimension's Dragonfly can produce high-performance electrical devices and components. And these high-performance devices can affect several industries that are booming and are growing. Industries from research, aerospace, defense, medical, and automotive. What's interesting here in the description is they are highlighting that nanodimension are integral enablers of autonomous intelligent drones, cars, satellites, smartphones, and in vivo medical devices. If we take a look at the in vivo medical device industry, so what is an IVD medical device? According to the BSI group, it's any medical device which is a reagent product, calibrator, control material, kit, instrument, apparatus, piece of equipment, and it's intended by the manufacturer to be used in vitro for the examination of specimens including blood and tissue donations derived from the human body. So what does in vitro mean? In vitro is Latin for within the glass. When something is performed in vitro, it happens outside of the living organism. And according to the BSI group, these IVD medical devices can include anything from blood glucose monitors, cancer diagnostics, devices for human genetic testing, even PCR assays including next generation sequencing panels. So now that's the in vitro market, right? A market that is set to be worth $96 billion by 2025 according to Markets and Markets Research, whereas grandviewresearch.com is stating that it could be worth $113.9 billion revenue forecast by 2027. That market is going to grow by 4.5% between 2021 and 2027. Could we be utilized in high performance electrical components for some of those in vitro medical devices? Maybe. But here it says in vivo medical devices. In vivo means within the living in Latin, and it refers to tests, experiments, and procedures that researchers perform in or on a whole living organism, such as a human, a laboratory animal, or a plant. So nanodimension, as you already know, they're working with piezo electric companies, piezo skin companies, and they're working on these kind of smart wearable sensors. This one is the Istituto Italiano di Tecnologia and the University of Salento. They're working on a smart wearable pH sensor. These pH sensors could be very important as well on the surface, especially in terms of healthcare. As we know, Kathy Woods from ARK Investors stated that nanodimension no longer calls itself a 3D printed circuit board company. It's now transformed the view of itself to a 3D printed technology device company. So if you go to nanodimension and you click into that medical 3D printing in healthcare, you'll see the key advantages they display. They say that they reduce time to market, you optimize the design for medical devices, biomedical sensors, and in vivo applications. You can also protect your IP, your intellectual property, and they're helping this digitalization push in healthcare. So we're moving to this preventative model where we're able to try and locate what's going on in the body before people even show symptoms, display symptoms of sickness. So they're getting real-time interactions with smart sensors and 5G technology. So people are always talking about smart wearable devices. You probably think about the Apple Watch. This is probably what's first that comes to your mind. They're always trying to better this Apple Watch, and they're trying to work on actually blood glucose monitoring. There was actually a Korean article stating that, you know, this is what they're currently working on, and they've been working on it for a while. Smart wearables can also help with athletic performance. They're pushing towards this future where they've got these smart wearable devices that can tell you when you need to hydrate, when you need to take a breath, relax for a moment, get your blood pressure down. So the aim of the game with these smart sensors is actually to observe and report on the world around us, is to enhance human life and make human life easy and much better. Another industry that I was reminded of today was actually the space industry and satellite industry. So when I got the email through from ARK Invest just stating the current updates on what their analysts found, this email was about the next generation satellites that SpaceX was currently working on and the next generation rockets. The email was about satellite bandwidth and how the cost is currently declining and how cheap it's getting. I remembered SpaceX, L3Harris actually got a contract back in October 2020. It was potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is kind of to beef up and spruce up the Department of Defense plan to actually create this satellite system that is going to protect them. So it protects them in terms of tracking and tracing advanced missile threats from outer space. So there's so many different markets and applications that nanodimension can currently affect. They can help companies innovate and create these kind of products that are going to be lucrative for their pockets. I was currently seeing what the latest products were being produced around the world and the applications for additive manufacturing and electronics. That was today in the AME Academy. According to Fintel, the institutions are reacting to this by making sure that they accumulate as much shares as possible. It's in the top 1,000 out of 21,890 tracked stocks. So that's the top 900 is in the top 1,000, just under 1,000, and it shows the highest levels of institutional accumulation. ARK Invest, for example, here it says on the 24th of September, they've declared that in 2 of their portfolios, they have it at an average price of $6.83. In their ARKQ portfolio, they have it at an average price of $6.84 per share. They've increased almost by 49% the amount of shares that they own of nanodimension in that one ETF. In the ARKW, they've increased by 37%. And I like using lucid tracking, so I use this to kind of track data. I clicked on the 14-day range there. You can click on 5-day, 14-day. And I just wanted to see the kind of aggregate rankings across the ETF and how much they are currently getting of nanodimension, and if it's switching places within the kind of ranking system. Here we can see nanodimension has switched rank. It's gone up 9 places in the last 14 days. ARK Invest has been accumulating shares of nanodimension. In terms of nanodimension across all portfolios, you can see they've just been trimming like $100,000 here and there just to keep the right weighting within the portfolios. But across all of them, you can see they have $51 million in ARKQ, they have $39 million worth in ARKW, $16 million in PRNT, and in their Israel portfolio, they have $3 million. Looks to be over $100 million in nanodimension. So if nanodimension is able to partner with some of the leaders in each one of these markets, for example, this medical devices market is set to hit around $671.49 billion by 2027. What more if nanodimension gets market leaders in the automotive industry with this big EV boom? What about the defense industry? We already got, partnerships with the Department of Defense. They're already one of our clients. And we also have it with L3Harris, one of the defense contractors. L3Harris is also working on space over here. And in terms of research institutions, that medical market, those research institutions in Italy, if some of their inventions make it mainstream to market with their medical devices, their biosensors, how much money can nanodimension potentially make if we're selling them this printer, but we're also making the money from the ink cartridges, supplying that kind of material? These high performance nano inks are going to be the ones that's going to be bringing us our reoccurring revenue as they 3D print as much devices and technology as they want. And they're currently working on multiple different materials, not just the Agsite nanoparticle silver ink, but many more. So now I want to run this video. I don't know how many of you have seen this one before. I think this is the latest video that they've had this kind of presentation together. I'm going to break it down into these kind of highlight chunks, but go over to the Red Chip Company's YouTube channel if you want to watch the whole video. It's about 14 minutes long. So the first thing Yoav Stern is talking about is reducing cost per unit.
Into production is reducing the cost per unit. What is the variables that makes a difference?
Next, he speaks about 1 piece or 20 pieces is still the same price per unit.
We print. For the printer, it prints 1 piece or it prints 20 pieces. It can print 50 pieces. It doesn't need to print 500,000 pieces in order to reduce the price per piece.
So Yoav then talks about this reducing the time to market and, getting ahead of competitors. Being the first to market, you can take lion's share of the market, reduce the costs. And instead of prototyping and waiting months for the prototypes to be ready and then having to redo it and come back and redo it, he said you only spend around about a few days to a few weeks.
While you're changing all this, to do it very quickly. So your time to market, rather than being few months, becomes between few days to a couple of weeks. Critical reduction of cost.
So you're saving money on prototyping, you're doing it as fast as possible. On top of that, that intellectual property theft is a big problem for any company producing unique technology or items. Copycats are everywhere.
Our customers, 50% of our customers are defense players. They're not even allowed to send most of the designs and production to China. Some of the non-defense are becoming the same today.
So by keeping it all in-house, it's one of the best things that NanoDimension can offer in terms of keeping those designs and manufacturing in-house in the West. One of the best things I've seen here is no more share dilutions. So he's got enough cash for a runway of up to 5 to 7 years, and that's enough cash to execute their plans.
That we kind of delivered a message and a vision that was supported to be able to have enough money that we look forward 5 to 7 years. We do not need to go back to the market. We don't need to dilute our shareholders.
So one of the things they're going to spend their money on is actually spending $50 to $80 million per year on research and development. They've actually spent between $50 and $80 million already so far, just in terms of NanoDimension's history in research and development. Now they can afford to spend that per year.
Than most of the companies around us in the industry can afford. If we spend $50 million to $80 million on R&D since the company was established, 5 years, we're going to spend close to that per year. Not so much, but close to that over the next 3-4 years. So expect results in taking the technology, and your previous question asked, what are you going to do with the machines? Taking the technology to this point.
So one of the next things they want to spend their money on is an expansion of sales. So what they want to do is target all these free markets. We're talking about US, Europe, and Asia.
Push forward our marketing strategy, our sales, to be able to be in 3 markets at once. The world market for electronics is divided about 40-45% in the United States, about 30% in Europe, and the rest, give or take 25% in Asia and growing.
And the last one is acquisitions, acquisitions, acquisitions.
So we're going to do acquisitions that will accelerate our time to market. And we're going to do acquisitions that are of technologies that merge into our technologies, so it shortens our time for product development and shortens the risk because we're acquiring technologies that are a bit more mature.
So here Yoav was asked about the business model and how they plan to make money. So he stated that he wants to be selling high margin machines, he wants to be renting, he wants to be leasing, and even running printing services.
As we advance forward and we populate the market with machines, we're selling machines with high gross margin, which, by the way, with the strong balance sheet we have, we are now offering them also on a rental basis. We're offering them on a leasing, so we have a recurring revenue, repeating by selling the machines and by getting a recurring revenue if we lease them or rent them. So one source of revenue. Second source of revenue, every machine we're selling is having a service contract on an annual basis, which enables the customer to get updated with updates of the software and the hardware. But it's a 10-12% a year, which is a recurring revenue. But the more machines we have, the more populated the market is with the machines, the more we have service revenue. Third source of revenue, material, the razor and the razor blade, like HP, like other printing, regular printing. You sell the machine, but now you start to sell the cartridges. And we manufacture the ink as well, ink, calling it ink, but it's really printing materials for electronic devices. So every customer that's using the machine more and more is buying more and more material, which is a third source of revenue. That's the business model. We combine entering the market with high revenue, and then as we continue and the market is populated with the machine, we will have recurring revenue on a lower level, but accumulating all the time as we have more machines and having a projection to the future.
So he was saying revenue from several streams, revenue from the ink cartridges, the printing materials. He was saying that the selling of machines annually, so you have this kind of high margin on each machine. And then the renting, the leasing, the services, there's Nano S service now, but also the servicing of the machines each year. Every year, those machines need to be repaired or they need to be adapted or updated with the latest technology and software. So next, really interesting, is the total addressable market has now changed. It's actually become bigger with acquisitions. So now Yoav Stern talks about the total addressable market and breaks it down for each market.
We have, as you may remember, we already did a couple of acquisitions. So we actually have by now more products than we had 60 days ago. So when you speak about market size, you have to include market size for all the products we have. And by now we have. So when you look at all these three markets, the size of the electronic market just for the PCB is about $70 billion, out of which $10-12 billion is the capital equipment. That's $10-12 billion. The micro machining, 3D printing is about $10-12 billion estimate around the world. So that makes it $22-25 billion. And once you get into artificial intelligence and deep learning, it's beyond that. And, $25 billion for a company that's just growing into that and with minimal to no competition, that's a very, very exciting proposition.
Yoav then talks about a highly accomplished team and these different staff members that he's recruited from some of these massive global companies across the world. So Yoav Stern was saying that there's limited downside potential because they have so much cash on hand. And right now they've got 1.4 billion cash on hand and they have a market cap of 1.41 billion. So I can't tell you to buy a share, I can't tell you to sell a share, I can't even tell you to hold a share. I can only tell you what I'm doing. And I've been buying nanodimension all throughout the dips. I've actually been getting more aggressive and averaging down as it's come down into this range now. And I'm going to continue to buy shares in this company because I believe they are an innovative company that can impact a lot of industries in the future and make me a nice return. They're stating that they're market leaders. They've got no one in sight. They've got these great staff members. They've got cash in hand, enough to fill out their roadmap of 5 to 7 years. They also have a few machines out there. I think it's about 60 machines out there, some of them with the Department of Defense and some of the biggest boys in the industry like L3Harris. So I'm going to continue to accumulate this slowly over the next few years. I'm trying to buy as much nanodimension as possible while they haven't got sales, because when the sales start to hit and they start to get more adoption, if the technology can save people time and it can save people money in prototyping, when they get into that kind of mass manufacturing mode where, Yoav Stern in the past has said 100,000 nanodimension dragonflies. When we get to that stage and it has that kind of adoption, the recurring revenue is going to be insane on 100,000 machines. The question is, can they and will they do it? Lots of institutions seem to think so, as they've been averaging down on their shares and accumulating more shares. Currently 193 institutional owners, almost 30% institutional shares. What do you think they know? Actually, if you check the 11th of August 2021, you'll be able to see here BlackRock. On the latest 13F form, they've increased their average by 919%. They've now got 4.5 million shares, an average share price of $8.41. Will we see over the next few quarters this accumulate even more? Will we see them averaging down as of now while the market is taking a dip? As always, let me know your thoughts and feelings. I hope you found this video valuable and entertaining. Please remember, this is not financial advice, it's for entertainment only. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can send me a donation via my PayPal link below in my description box, or you can click the join button just above my head. I really value your opinions as well, and I thank you so much for your support. Please drop me a like and click subscribe, and drop me some comments. I want to know your thoughts and feelings on nanodimension. As always, thank you very much for watching. Mr. Investor over and out, baby.